they've had this year, especially Rhodes, that it just kind of knocks the whole secondary for a loop. But to me, Harrison Smith is not in any way the problem back there. I think, and I think Anthony Harris has had a very good year too, and had a interception return for a touchdown. Has 4 interceptions this year. I don't think Harrison gets as many opportunities for picks and so forth because teams throw away from him, and he's also at the line a lot. He's also blitzing or backing off, and so no, I don't think Harrison. To me, he's still top quality player.
Yeah, and it doesn't surprise me to hear you say that. And I said he's a hard guy to evaluate because stats don't necessarily show what he's doing. All right, let's get to the division now. The Packers have had some bad games this year, but they still have the straight shot to the playoffs if they win. The Bears now suddenly are surging. The Lions aren't good, but they look a little dangerous. I guess instead of just talking about the division, we talk about the playoff race in general. I look at the way the Vikings played on Monday night, and now every game remaining looks dangerous to me. This week because short week and they're banged up. Next week because they have to go play on grass in Los Angeles against a team that isn't as bad as its record indicates, always plays close games. And then, Packers and Bears, 2 teams that will be difficult, especially now that the Bears are playing better. It feels like quite a slog now.
Well, I think you're right. I think it is a tough finish. I don't expect Detroit to give them a lot of trouble this week, honestly. And when they're starting a quarterback, his second career start, a rookie, and yeah, he looked okay against the Bears on Thanksgiving, but again, short week for the Bears to travel, and I just see the Vikings being able to do some things against a rookie quarterback. We know Zimmer loves to play rookie quarterbacks. It didn't work out so well against Brandon Allen, who wasn't a rookie at that point in time, or maybe he was, but it was like his second career start too. And so to me, Detroit should be a team the Vikings can handle. And whether it's Dalvin Cook or if they decide to kind of rest him, it sounds like he's going to play, but I don't expect him to play a lot. I think Alexander Madison,
play him.
I probably wouldn't either, honestly. I think Madison is a really, really good rookie running back. We had him on our Monday Night Purple show the other night, really a smart young guy and very personable, and along with Stephen Weatherly, who, as you know, a very, very bright guy out of Vanderbilt. We had a great show the other night, which we'll talk about in a minute about B-52 Burgers and Brew. But anyways, I think Madison can carry the load with Mike Boone helping him and Amir Abdullah spotting him maybe on some screens. But I know this about Zimmer. He's not going to take the Lions lightly. If he thinks that Cook can go, he's going to play him and then see how the game goes and then come out of there if things are going in the right direction, which is probably a smart thing to do because you don't want to take a chance on having what happened against Denver reoccur here with the Lions coming into town. And as we said, the Lions have played the Vikings tough. They're not even the same team that they were when the Vikings beat them in Detroit, which was a tough game in about week 6 when they beat them 42-30 in Detroit. That was Matthew Stafford threw for 364 that day. Fortunately, Cousins threw for 338 and 4 touchdowns, but Stafford threw for 4 touchdowns to Marvin Jones. They've still got those 3 receivers that are dynamic in Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Amendola, and that's a challenge. But I think Scarborough is now their lead back, and he was okay on Thanksgiving, but the rushing attack isn't as dangerous. It should be a bounce-back game for the Vikings in run defense, which is what they really need to be able to do. Hopefully Joseph, another week back from his surgery, and will be better in his second start after the kind of the dismal performance against Seattle. But I agree with you about the Chargers. I think that's a dangerous game. I think it's a less dangerous game because they're not playing Sunday night on national TV.
True.
And it also helps the team. They don't get back at 5 a.m. I think everything is better not to have that game at night. And perhaps the Chargers wouldn't be quite as cranked up for a Sunday afternoon game at their little $30,000 bandbox that they're playing, or 30,000 seat bandbox they're playing in. And so I think that, and Rivers has had just a kind of a shaky year.
Yes.
But it's definitely a dangerous game. There's no doubt they've got talented guys on defense, guys like Ingram and Bosa, and then you still got Phillip Rivers and Melvin Ingram and that whole crew and some Melvin Gordon. So that's a worrisome game that we'll talk about next week. And then the Packers and Bears. The good news for the Vikings, they're at home against those teams. The bad news is that they're going to be tough games. And the game that scares me even more than the Packers is the Bears, honestly, because the Vikings just have not been able to match up with them. And Akeem Hicks is supposed to be coming back from IR. And I think they need to have the playoff spot wrapped up before they face that Bears team at the end of the season. And so we'll see how it shakes out, but it's going to be not easy down the stretch by any sense of the imagination, for sure.
Tell me about B-52 Burgers and Brew, and then tell me about what you wrote about the 49ers and whether you believe that team is legitimately one of the best teams in the NFL.
Yeah, B-52 Burgers and Brew, Inver Grove Heights in Lakeville, fantastic restaurants, and I encourage everyone to head out there. The B-52 in Inver Grove Heights is the home of our Monday Night Purple show on News Talk 830 WCCO radio, and we had Stephen Weatherly and Alexander Madison this past week. Anthony Harris, who's having a really good year, will be our guest on Monday, this coming Monday at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 o'clock, and we'll have a second player guest also joining us, and it's been terrific out at the restaurant. They've got a terrific menu, 25 varieties of burgers, and great entrees and appetizers, Monday night specials, and a fantastic Sunday brunch. Check out their website, b52burgersandbrew.com. And as I said, our home of Monday Night Purple on News Talk 830 WCCO. So hope to see you at B52 Burgers and Brew in Inver Grove Heights for Monday Night Purple, or visit the Lakeville store, B52 Burgers and Brew.
Before we get to the 49ers and our pick for this week, we talked about, the Bears and the Packers, those big games coming down the stretch. One thing to remember about the Packers is you can watch them struggle against a good team or lose in California by a lopsided margin. But I tell you what, Aaron Rodgers, 22 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's historically good.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that's the kind of numbers that Russell Wilson has, and the low interception percentage. Also, Kirk Cousins is having that kind of season as far as not turning the ball over. I mean, really, two of his interceptions bounced off of Diggs, and the interception in Seattle should have been pass interference for sure. It was a terrible non-call that had a big effect on the game. And so take those 2 interceptions away, and that would take Kirk down to about, 2 on the season? Mm-hmm. So you say, hey, he's having that kind of spectacular year, even though I didn't like his throw on 4th down against Seattle. I think I think he got kind of locked in on Irv Smith Jr. and as Zimmer said, needed to maybe buy some time. But again, 4th down, and Seattle has got some pass rushers, and Clowney's out on the field, and so I understand. But he just didn't make a good throw in that situation, unfortunately. But he did bring him back from way down again, as he did against Denver, and at least made a game of it. I give him credit. I give the Vikings credit that they were not beat badly by the Seahawks. It was a game that they had a chance with the ball in the last couple minutes. But yeah, I think that we talk about the season ahead, talk about the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, and he's been terrific. But he has had some clunkers, and he had one in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, where he threw for only 100 yards or whatever. And Aaron Jones has been kind of up and down this year. So they're a team that certainly has improved dramatically. I think the 2 Smiths, Preston and Zadarius, have made a big difference in their pass rush, and they are a much better team, and they look like, especially schedule-wise, that they're in really good shape in order to win the division. They've got the Redskins at home this week. Then they've got the Bears at home next week. I think that's an interesting game. That's the game that's kind of tricky for the Vikings and Viking fans to figure out. Do you want the Bears to knock off the Packers? Probably yes, and then hope that Kansas City beats the Bears the next week in Chicago. But if the Bears beat the Packers and get to 8-6, that's getting a little dangerous too in that regard. But that the Vikings' path to win the division, because of the tiebreaker, they need the Packers to drop 2 games while the Vikings win out, and as I said, because of the tiebreaker. And so in that regard, it's going to be interesting when they play next week, those two teams. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers, terrific year, and he has the Packers poised to win the division, because I do think that they can beat the Bears at home next week, and then it's kind of pretty tough to think that they're going to lose in Detroit in the season finale, and they're certainly not going to lose to Washington at home this week. And so, but the Bears are capable of knocking them off. The Vikings just have to take care of their own business, win these 4 games, get to 12-4, and then see what happens. But 12-4, amazingly, this year, and kind of brings us back to the 49ers, who you mentioned, may end up with the 6th seed.
Right. Amazing. And of course, somebody might win the NFC East with about 7 wins too. Yeah,
exactly. And that Dallas looked terrible last night, and Philadelphia lost to Miami last week. So that's going to be somebody's going to get gifted that division title, and it could be the Eagles. They got the easier schedule, and Dallas is just really a mess right now, which Philadelphia is too. But I think what it sets up is whichever team is the number 1 wild card, which is probably going to come out of the West, which is probably going to be San Francisco, because I expect Seattle to win the division. I think San Francisco's going to get beat in New Orleans this week, and I think Seattle will take care of them in the season finale. So San Francisco ends up as the number 1 wild card again at 12-4 probably, and so I think we'll have to see if the Vikings end up 12-4 in a wild card too. I'm not sure how those tiebreakers work out. We're going to have to look at that before next week if both teams stay on track. But I think that yeah, San Francisco probably is going to be that number 1 wild card, and we'll see how that all works out. But the Vikings just need to take care of their own business. But you mentioned San Francisco, and am I a believer in them? Not totally, to be honest. And I think they've had a terrific turnaround year, which is what I wrote about in my sportingnews.com column. They've had a great turnaround year, but I do think they have a couple of things that concern me. One of them is Jimmy Garoppolo. He's thrown 10 interceptions this year. He's thrown some very untimely interceptions. Now, he's also won a lot of games, but they really kind of fattened up on an easy first half of the season schedule. They only faced 2 teams with winning records, and it was the Bears when they were struggling and Pittsburgh when they were struggling. And so they jump out 8-0. Well, since then, it's gotten a little more dicey. They lose to Seattle in overtime when their kicker misses a makeable kick. And Robbie Gould was out for that game. He's come back. He's had a shaky year. He's 14-22 kicking field goals. And to me, they almost look like the Bears last year with the kicking situation, which is really ironic since Gould was the Bears kicker for so many years, as we know. And so I think I worry about the 49ers kicking situation. I worry about Garoppolo in his first playoff game. I think he can beat Dallas or Philadelphia, but then he ends up going to either New Orleans or Seattle. I don't think he can outduel Russell Wilson or Drew Brees. So I just don't see San Francisco as a Super Bowl threat this year, and that's the way I kind of view their situation.
Let's do our picks here. Once again, thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod, as well as following our personal Twitter accounts to stay up with all the shows we have coming across the network. What's your pick for this week? I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm going with the Vikings this week, and whether Thielen's back or not, whether Dalvin Cook's in there or not, I think they've got enough to handle this Lions team with a rookie quarterback and at home, crowd noise. I think it'll get David Blau rattled. It was one thing to look decent on Thanksgiving against the Bears, even though down the stretch he kind of faltered. But I think coming into U.S. Bank Stadium, I think the crowd will give him difficulty. T.J. Hawkinson, the Lions' really excellent tight end, rookie 8th overall pick, is now on injured reserve. So they've still got those 3 dynamic receivers, and it's going to be, I think, on the Vikings pass rush to crank it up this week and be able to have an effect on Blau and disrupt him. And so, but I think first and foremost that Matt Patricia is going to want to try to run the ball, because he's going to test